Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Really glad to be here today with the Progressive Caucus Special Order Hour, and I'd like to thank the gentlelady from New Jersey, Ms. Watson-Coleman, for all her hard work on behalf of the Progressive Caucus and on behalf of this issue of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. As we know, over the weekend and all last week, the U.S. Trade Representative's office cooks have been in the kitchen, and they've told us now the Trans-Pacific Partnership is done. But from everything that we can tell, it is not fully baked. In fact, at best, it is half-baked when it comes to labor, environmental, and consumer concerns. Now that a final deal has been reached, we ask the administration to let the American public immediately see the full text of this agreement. This negotiating process has not been transparent up to this point, despite claims from the U.S. Trade Representative's office. We know that about 600 people, largely corporate CEOs, have been involved in the drafting of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, but not Congress, and certainly not members of the public. And this secretive nature of these negotiations is compounded by the pressure to throw together based on the political timelines of our negotiating partners rather than with the regard of the U.S. worker in mind. And reports throughout the course of the negotiating process has raised serious questions about the impact of this agreement on a number of areas, ranging from workplace and environmental protections to food safety, but most importantly, jobs and wages. We all know this economy has been rebounding. The stock market is significantly up from the 2008 crash. Corporate profits are up. CEO pay is up. Productivity is up. But wages for the American worker have unfortunately been dead flat. And the Trans-Pacific Partnership will lead to the loss of good-paying jobs right here in the U.S. Through several decades of unfair trade rules, corporations have outsourced production and offshored jobs, and the TPP will only exacerbate this problem. In fact, on Tuesday, in its initial analysis, the Wall Street Journal has projected an increase in the manufacturing trade deficit of $38.2 billion. That means jobs and wages right here in the United States. Additional reports have also said that the labor standards will remain subpar, that currency manipulation has not been adequately addressed, rules of origin for autos have been weakened, and human rights issues with countries like Malaysia and Brunei have not been dealt with properly. Among these concerns, corporations still have the ability to supersede laws of our country through the investor-state dispute settlement process, something that Representative Slaughter explained very aggressively in her comments. This agreement has nothing to do to effectively address currency manipulation, which that alone has contributed to the loss of 5 million U.S. jobs. And despite claims by the administration that this agreement is the most progressive, high-standard deal that we've ever negotiated, the labor and environmental rules in our free trade agreements are rarely enforced in our partner nations. In fact, 4 years ago, when we passed the Colombia Free Trade Agreement, to the letter of the law, the Colombian government has put the provisions within Colombian law, and not one bit of that has actually been implemented, and over 100 labor leaders in the last 4 years have been killed just in Colombia. So these trade agreements haven't worked based on past practice, and without changes, they're not going to work in future progress as well. In addition, the administration has gone out of its way to help cover up human rights atrocities in order to conclude these negotiations. You know, Malaysia was demoted in the State Department's 2014 Trafficking in Persons report due to its grossly inadequate response to the perverse tracking of minority groups throughout the country. By downgrading them within the same year that mass graves were found of workers in Malaysia is an insult to human rights conditions, and to include them and countries like Brunei that still stone gays and lesbians and single mothers is a further evidence that this deal is not ready for the public or for Congress to accept for the public. The Trans-Pacific Partnership is neither free trade nor fair trade. In reality, it's a system of rules crafted by multinational corporate interests and their lobbyists that work for a select group of powerful people at the expense of everyone else. This just isn't about jobs or wages. This is agreement about corporate profits. Past trade deals have been a disaster for American workers, so it is imperative that Congress rigorously review this deal to ensure that the American people aren't yet taken for a ride again. Again, I will renew my call and the Progressive Caucus's call to immediately release the text of the agreement. 600 corporate CEOs know what's in the deal, but the 435 members of this House and the American public don't, and that's simply wrong. If this deal is as good as they say it is, put the language on the table. Let's review it with the public. My fear is that it's not, and if it's still going to cost American jobs and wages, it's the wrong thing to do, and we have to reject the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And I yield my time back.